Okay, 360 Speedsters, remarkably, on to the final segment, the final part of episode 18, before we take a summer break, a couple of weeks break before we're back. We will still be across social media though, so please do keep interacting with us. We love that you take an interest in what 360 Speedway tries to do, so please catch up if you need to catch up on our YouTube channel, catch up with some of the previous episodes, all 17 of them, and please do keep across our social media and be as interactive as you possibly can. Help us to grow the 360 Speedway family. Right, okay, so as a final discussion topic tonight, I thought I would suggest something which I think went under the radar a little bit. So a couple of weeks back, if it is that, Tai Woffindens announced to the world that he had made a decision, and despite those horrendous, absolutely awful injuries that Tai suffered on the eve of this season out in Poland, he has announced that he has decided, in conjunction with his family, to resume his speedway career in 2026. So he's still very much in recuperation mode at the moment, although he has been on a bike out in Wrocław. I wasn't sure if that was this year or historically, but I'm assured it was just a couple of weeks ago. And gents, I did want to just to talk about it, and maybe yes, let's talk about Tai because he's the guy who's the subject of this. But maybe we can generalise around it a little bit as well. So Carol, to ask you first of all, so given what Tai Woffindens and his young family have been through, right, and because of the particularly severe injuries, multiple that Tai suffered, the induced coma, all of that stuff, which must have been absolutely horrendous for all concerned. Are you, Carol, even remotely surprised that Tai has landed on making a racing return next season?
I'm not surprised. A little shocked, really, from given his age, he's and how Speedway is now. It's a younger man's sport rather than an older man. And he's not an older man, but he's one of the older statesmen now in the sport. He's had some big injuries over the last few years, hasn't he? And come back from them. He's a fighter. We know that he's one of the best. He wants to ride his bike. He wants to enjoy riding his bike. Sometimes a bad injury like he's had, and probably not much recollection of what happened, helps you. It certainly helps you in the recovery and as they say, getting back on the bike. But it's I'm a little bit shocked that he's gonna race on with the family that he's got. Does he need to? Is he doing it to prove a point that he's still good enough? I don't want to see him come back and be the part rider that we know he can be. We know he's brilliant. We know, he's a fantastic motorcyclist, and we don't want him to be in a position that not makes himself look silly, but is not enjoying it and not getting out of it what he wants, and he looks back at the end of the season and goes, I made a mistake and should never have come back. But he knows his body, his choice. He knows how he feels. He knows what his mindset is. Obviously, he's spoken about it with the family. They've obviously okayed it and agreed with it. And, that's up to him. And we're not really going to know until he turns a wheel in anger really what his position is, mentally or physically.
Simon, I think, part of the reason that we're having this conversation about Tai, because so many riders have injuries and come back from them, a leg break, an arm break, and I'm dismissing that as if it's nothing, but you do become a bit hardened to hearing and reading about riders recovering from those sort of injuries. But given what Tai suffered, the multiple injuries, I'm not even going to describe what they were individually, but I think it's only because Tai is quite a popular character, right? He's one of those Marmite people. I know there's Speedway fans who don't particularly like Tai, but I think in the majority he's quite a popular guy. And I think some of the shock that Carol touched on, and I admit to being a bit shocked, a bit surprised that he's decided to make a full-time return. I think that shock, that concern comes from a good place, because I think we wouldn't want Tai to and his family to be put through any more injury woes and health woes, given what he's had to endure over his career. He's had quite a lot of bad breaks over his career, Simon. Despite the great heights that he's managed to achieve, it speaks volumes for the guy that he's been able to get out of the sport what he has.
Yeah, of course. Obviously, I remember sort of seeing Ty come over for his first skid at Scunny. I think he won his first ever race at Scunthorpe, and he went over the finish line that fast. His throttle stuck flat out. He went through the collapsible fence then. We didn't have air fences then, and it made everybody stay to watch him, and everybody kind of thought, bloody hell, he's special. You knew he was special there and then. And he just, he blossomed, and he went through the gears. And he made it to the top, and all I've ever wanted to do was be a professional speedway rider, and we all have dreams of being world champion and that. But listen, there is only a very select few that happens to, and he's done it 3 times. Obviously, it was horrific and heartbreaking news when we all learnt of what happened, and obviously he's spared a lot of thoughts for family and that. And his young family and wife and kids and that. But yeah, seeing him back on a bike, on a video, I think I was on my way from Scunny the other week, flicking through Facebook, and I'm not going to lie, I was gobsmacked. I did think, is this from this year? But yeah, I mean, Woofy likes his Instagram posts and his Facebook posts and dropping a few F-bombs and all that, but I don't think that was just a social media sort of stunt. I think it's brilliant he's coming back, because it takes balls, it takes character. But also being a rider, I've had a pretty tough year, and I've never once thought I'm going to jack it in. Like I can't imagine my life without riding a speedway bike. And I think the day I do is the day I'll have to say, right, at the end of the year, or that's me done. And obviously Woofy himself, it's all he's ever known, and if he's still keen to throw his leg over and twist that throttle, fair play to him. Like, it's his life at the end of the day. He's achieved so much more in this sport than what thousands of other people have and ever will. So yeah, good on him, really. Like, obviously he's got other interests with his DJing and this and that. Like I say, he likes his social media posts, but to go and he'll get a contract no matter what he is, and I hope he does the British League again next year. He'll always put bums on seats, and he'll always be very good at it. And I think Woofy will know himself when enough's enough.
Yeah.
His body will tell him, and in your head and your heart, I think. I ask a lot of riders, like Carl's just touched on the subject of the older generation, even though I'm older than Woofy, thanks Carl. But like, I ask a lot of retired guys, do you not miss this? Do you not miss riding your bike? Like David out, a prime example, team manager at Scunny. Do you not miss riding your bike? And he just looks at me, gone out, and says, no. Whereas I'm not like that. I just want to ride my bike, and it's different, do you know what I mean? I think when you stop, like, I hate winter breaks and that. Woofy's been injured a long time, but he's always going to have a good team and finances around him and equipment around him. He can go out and he can keep fit and practice and do this and do that, and I think he'll come back strong next year. And obviously I hope we see him in the British League. But yeah, fair play to him, good on him, and a lot of character and that, and fair play, mate.
I'm going to just read a couple of quotes attributed to Tai. So this is courtesy of The Sun, Phil Lanning's article in The Sun a week or so ago, and Tai's quoted as saying, I'm not affected by what has happened, it's just a normal rehabilitation process from an injury. I went to watch at Sheffield a few weeks back, and watched the boys ride, I was like, bleep, I want to feel that right now. For now, the focus is on rehabilitation. It's not really thought about riding too much. But he said that he had decided 100% several weeks ago that he knew he wanted to ride again. And Carol, I'd like to think that Tai's decision has come from the fact. We've talked about several riders in the past who are absolutely driven, determined, singular focused on making a great success out of Speedway. Tai has been there. He has made a great success out of Speedway. I'd like to think his decision is much more about. He's just turned 35, so he's still a relatively young man. Of course he is, but I would like to think his decision is more born out of that drive and that determination that he still has, rather than any sense of, to Simon's point, of being addicted to racing Speedway bikes and not being able to contemplate life without doing that.
Yeah, I think obviously he's a multi-world champion, and that's what he thrives on. He thrives on that energy from winning, the energy from the supporters. Obviously he's a massive star in Poland. They love him in Poland. They probably love him in Poland as much as we love him over here. He's part of their fabric in Speedway, and yeah, he's a character. We all know he's a character. We all know he's what he's like, and like Simon says, that's his life. And he wants to be successful. He is successful. He wants to continue that, and by being successful, as we've said in the past, success breeds success. If you're doing well on track, you want to keep doing well on track. It's like Simon. Simon's had a couple of, really good meetings, but, and then his next meeting, he'll want to do the same. When you're on a bit of a downer, it's hard to get out of that rut as a Speedway rider. When you're in that top level, the likes of Woffie is, you want to be back at that level. You don't want to be a midfield rider. You want to be the elite, and that's what he thrives on. And and that's his mentality. His mentality is, I want to be a winner at all costs. And like Simon says, we all have dreams. Wanted to be world champion, on a Speedway bike. We've all been there. When I was a junior, it was like, I want to be world champion. When I knew that wasn't going to happen, it was a case of, right, now where can I succeed? And that was, okay, well, I'll probably go into something different. Went into team management. We were successful to a degree. And that was good. And I look at it and go, I've done what I wanted to in my life with Speedway for myself. I wanted to be a rider at Peterborough. I wanted to be a team manager at Peterborough. I ended up being promoter at Peterborough. So I've done everything at Peterborough that I wanted to. For my dream, that's what I wanted. For Tai's dream, he wants to be world champion again.
Yeah.
And that's the levels that everybody's at. And he thrives on that success. And fair play to him if to come back and do it after that. It's horrendous. There's not many people that would come back from and ride and and say they're going to ride like he is for next season after an injury like that. It's just. And that just, that just shows the sort of character that he is, and and that's what we all love about him. Whether we know him personally or not, as a Speedway rider for Great Britain, for England, Great Britain, however you look at it, that's what we want. And if he's successful again, we'll back him, won't we? Of course we will. As soon as his wheels are turning, he's racing in Grand Prix or the Speedway Nations for Team GB. We'll support him 100%. We'll be well behind him. Same as if it was Simon in there, we'd do exactly the same. Of course, we support Simon anyway. It's part of the 360 team. Of course, we support him.
100%. Simon, I mentioned Tai. He's just turned 35. So he's still a relatively young man, even in Speedway terms, right? And like life's too short. For any professional sportsman, or sportswoman, it must be quite haunting if you have been forced to retire from your chosen sport too soon because of injury or a life event or whatever it might be. And for speedway riders, for Tai in particular, I would like that he has no regrets about his speedway career. So, and by the way, who's to say that Tai's best years are still not ahead of him? Because I'm sure that's the way that he'll be thinking. He's got everything to try and retrieve and win in the world of speedway.
Yeah, of course. I mean, what happened to him? Many people, if that could happen to many other people, and they would never even consider getting back on a bike again. But yeah, I watched that video probably 20 times and thought, my God, he's fast. Like, I know it's only a video, but anybody can look fast on their own. We've always said this: you stick 3 others at the side of you, you're in a different world. It's a different ball game. But he was full sending it. He was on the stop. He was having fun. And I think, I've learned that maybe myself this weekend. When you just relax and have fun again, things happen. So will he ever be world champion again? I don't know. We might never see him in the Grand Prix again. It doesn't matter. He'll still be, top 10, top 20 in Poland. He'll still be like top 10 in England. And at the end of the day, no matter what anybody says or thinks about him, you'll never take away he's a 3-time world champion from him. And he can live his life till the day he dies. He's done his mother and father proud, his wife, his kids proud, and he's got something that every young kid that's in the National League now, he's got something that they would all love to say. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And
that's the difference, That is why he was naturally given something when he was born. And, I think by looking at his socials, he's pretty good at everything, isn't he? Skateboarding, BMX, bloody jet skiing,
Yeah.
He's a chosen one. Yeah. He's a chosen one. And obviously he took the British flag on his back, and, we're lucky enough to have seen it and all that. So it'll always be remembered. So, and to be fair to him, he's a bloody good guy off track. People think these big wigs just here for this and that. Tai's different. One of my sponsors' sons, they had a very bad accident, and he's a massive Woffie fan. And I'll be honest, I rang Woffie up and said, look, mate, can you make this guy's day? Send me your bank details. Tell me how much you want for it all. Here's my address. Sent him it all. 48 hours, there was a package here: hoodies, hats, T-shirts, stickers, caps, lanyards. And I'll never forget that, because I know he's got a team that perhaps do that for him, but he signed it all and everything. And what my sort of sponsor and friend was going through, it give them a boost in life. It cost Tai nothing.
Yeah.
He wouldn't take any money off me, and people don't see all that. That is one thing with not every speedway rider, but certain riders will do and go above and beyond. And I'll never forget that. And he certainly got, my sponsor and friend out of a bit of a hole and give him a lift to get him back on the right track. So, yeah, genuinely, like you say, Marmite likes his F-bomb and all that, but so what? Like, we're all human, aren't we? He says it how it is, and I'm a big believer of that, as you know, Derek.
Absolutely, except not on 360, because you get me into trouble, Simon. But so listen,
I'll get myself into trouble.
Listen, I think we are self-proclaimed Tai fans, and the few touch points that I've ever had with Tai, he's always been absolutely brand new and a real pleasure to speak to and work with. And Woofie, if you remotely look in here or you hear about this conversation on 360 Speedway, then please be assured that we are absolutely behind you. And it's only out of
concern. We'll try to get him on here one night, Derek. I'll have a word with him. I'll see if I can get him on here.
That would be amazing, Simon. That would be amazing. Thank you very much. But listen, it's only out of concern for your health, really, that we maybe hesitate and had a little bit of shock on hearing the news. But completely behind you, and we look forward to seeing you back on track in 2026. If you're listening to this out in 360 Speedway land, we'd be interested in your views. Are you fully supportive, fully behind Tai's decision, as big as it is, or are you more concerned than not that maybe Tai's jumped back in, but without thinking too long and hard. Now, I'm sure that's not the case, but be interested in your views. Well, listen, that brings us to the end of episode 18. My sincere thanks to Jason Edwards for joining us earlier, to Simon Lambert, to Carol Johnson for doing much more talking on this episode than they've had to do before. So thank you guys for stepping in. Keep trackside, keep looking after, keep supporting your teams down your local track. We're getting to the thick end, the business end of the season. Whether your team's still chasing some dreams or not, please get behind them to see out the season. And look after yourself. We will see you back on 360 Speedway 2 weeks. 2 weeks time. That'll be Friday the 29th of August, back with episode 19. Until then, look after yourselves. Good night.
Good night.